Susan. And it's 6:01. So there's Susan. All right, I'm going to start the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Maple Run Unified School District Board of Directors for January 19th, 2022. It's 6:01 p.m. We are recording this meeting. First item on the agenda second item on the agenda is the agenda review. I have no changes to make to the agenda, so we can move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Move my table here. If you all can join me for a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the visitor section. The public comment visitor section of the meeting is an opportunity for community members to address issues of concern about policy, budget, and administrative matters, and to share ideas about how we can work together to improve our schools. We value input and respect divergent views. We ask you to limit your remarks to 2 minutes per topic and refrain from airing grievances with individual members of the school community, including respecting the privacy of the students and the parents. Those attending remotely may type their full name in the comment section if they wish to speak. During the meeting, we will disable the comment section. So, John here. John, do we have any members that are remote that wish to speak? I'm hearing nothing. There's something in the chat. Hey, John, anybody wish to speak?
Hi, Nilda. I'm sorry. I'm attending remotely tonight, and I believe Martin should be running point on the visitor section.
Oh, who's doing it?
It should be Martin Katam.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get that part. Martin, anybody wish to speak in that remote group? I'm hearing nothing. I'm going to check to see what this comment says.
Hi, Nilda. Sorry, we were muted here in the room. Sorry about that. Martin says he hasn't seen anyone in the chat yet, and we don't have anybody here in the room with us.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody? Well, I guess there's no one that wishes to speak right now then. So hearing no one, we will close that visitor section of the agenda and move on. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have minutes from the 5th, 6th, and 10th of January, and also the media package. Does anyone wish to pull anything out of the consent agenda to discuss? Hearing none, we can accept the consent agenda as provided. Moving on to item 6, old business. First item is a COVID update. Bill Kimball will give us that COVID update. It's all yours, Bill.
Thank you, Nilda. I took off my mask, so hopefully people can hear me. I'd like to keep it on as much as possible. As many of you seen since the 1st of January, there's been a series of guidance and recommendations that have come out from the Department of Health and from the Agency of Education. At this meeting 2 weeks ago, I talked to you about how some of that changed just since the Friday before the new year. Since then, we had some more definitions change for close contact and fully vaccinated for schools. That has gone back to being for students that are enrolled in pre-K through 12 schools, public schools, to be 2 full shots. have gone through their series of Pfizer and Moderna or their one shot of Johnson & Johnson. Since then, last week, it was publicized on Tuesday, and we did not receive written guidelines until Friday about a change from a test to stay program that you all know we've been running to a test at home, where parents are given tests, 2 if their students are vaccinated, and 5 if they're unvaccinated, and to test to come to school on their own by families. This has been somewhat of a shock to some of the folks in our system. That's produced some anxiety of testing happening outside the school, but we've had some really good support from Dr. Raska, who's head of pediatric infectious disease at UVM Medical Center, and Dr. Rebecca Bell, who is the president of the Vermont chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. They both did a town hall for us on Tuesday and really explained the science of what's going on with Omicron for us and why our current test to stay and contact tracing isn't working. As we were going through the guidance starting yesterday and working with our nurses and the leadership team yesterday and today, one of the best pieces of advice I received from one of my colleagues was, let's do this deliberately and correctly and make sure we're ready to go to move from a test to stay to a test at home. I think it was the best piece of advice I received in probably the past 2 weeks, which was like, let's make sure we're ready to do this. So today we met as a team, the nurses and the leadership team, and started putting together our documentation. We'll be sending a communication probably end of day tomorrow, maybe Friday at the latest, to the community about how we're making this change for next week. One of the things that we learned from all the changing guidance a week and a half ago is it doesn't help our families, and it makes it even more confusing and more work on our nursing professionals when we do a rapid change. So I thought that was really good guidance. We're in the midst of that work right now. I know there are draft communications that we're going to go over tomorrow morning as a group. So the other thing I can tell you is to give you an update on cases is that we are currently seeing quite a few cases within Maple Run, to the point of trying to stay up with contact tracing for some of our schools is very difficult to do. They could be a day or two behind, as I said in a letter to the community, and I beg everyone's patience and understanding. I know this is a really stressful time for families, as it is for our staff and our students. So we're working on making these changes. We're seeing increased staff absenteeism right now. I told you 2 weeks ago that we're right on the edge. It's really a day-to-day thing. I talked to 2 of our principals today about their staffing levels, and will we be open even tomorrow, which right now we will be open. But it's really a day-to-day work, and there's a lot of folks working on that to ensure. And as I said in the last meeting, I want to thank our staff for really being flexible, and there's many of them that jump into new things, not only each morning, but sometimes a few times to different things during the day without actually knowing it when they first arrive in the morning. So our staff has been tremendous. I know it's been really stressful for them. But that's where we're at right now. And I think the article that came out of the St. Albans Messenger, if you didn't see it, did a good job of kind of capturing the Franklin County schools and where we're at. We're all in the same place. I talked with my colleagues. It's very high case counts and some big attendance absenteeism within our schools. Bill, I'd be glad to take any questions that folks have, but I tried to do a brief summary, and not to really focus on any one detail, so if someone has a question, I'm glad to answer it.
Any questions?
No, I just got one question for clarification. You said fully vaccinated for the grammar. Is that 2 shots plus 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
It's plus 2 weeks.
Plus 2 weeks.
You have to have the 2-week time period.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I have a question. Bill, is there anything, is there any deficiencies or anything else that we could, I don't know if we I know besides the sub and stuff, is there anything else that we can provide, support, anything? I know it's kind of, I just figured I'd put it out there. I know we're doing all we can, but I didn't know if there's anything else, I guess is my question.
I think I heard Dr. Bell on Tuesday nights, and I think all of you I think as board members, you should have received a copy, the link to see the recording. So if you haven't seen it, that first 25 minutes by Dr. Raska is excellent, explaining the science behind it. I think Dr. Bell really summarized it well. We not only are we frustrated, not only our staff is frustrated, not only, but families are very stressed right now. And families, I literally got off the phone 10 minutes ago with a family and a staff member talking about the issue that they're going through. And I take it because they're under so much stress from there being a lack of clarity anywhere. And that's happening to everyone. And that's what's probably been the most upsetting of this whole pandemic. So what I'd ask board members to do as you hear people is approach it with empathy, but also help yourselves and your friends and people you know just take a breath. And then that messaging of this isn't easy for anybody right now. It's, we're all trying to do the best we can, and it does change. And the way it comes out at times is we can have more questions than we do answers when we get guidance.
Okay. No, yeah, I guess just we are in the same boat, and it is frustrating to not understand changing all the time. I'll second that. So sorry for everybody going through it. Sorry, go ahead, Al. Sorry.
I said the CDC doesn't even understand it.
No.
They change with a wave of the hand because they got a different situation every time. So it's
I think one of the other difficult things is that the CDC and the Vermont Department of Health are not always in sync. And, the group I'm associated with follows the Vermont Department of Health, which is sometimes delayed in catching up to what the latest out of the CDC is. And sometimes it's in direct conflict. So it's fun. All right. Next item on the agenda, if there are no other questions or comments, is implicit bias and anti-racism training. Bill?
Yes, I'll just update the board for what I did last week is that the design team is coming back together, planning for a in-person exchange somewhere, hopefully in March or April, but we're very much COVID dependent on that. And that work is happening. I know they've come together once and are trying to restructure that and retool that from what was planned to be done in December. Besides that, I have to apologize. I know how much more NILDA focus has really been on COVID pretty much all the time.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you. Any questions? Uh-oh. Next item on the agenda is negotiations. And at this point, I think we can have a finding that premature general public knowledge could clearly place the school board at a substantial disadvantage. So therefore, I think we have grounds to go into executive session for discussion of negotiations. I just want to alert you that this is going to be like a short, brief session, probably about 10 minutes. I think Bill and Martin are going to take us to a breakout room. So it'll be the board, Bill, and Martha coming to this executive session. This is irregular to have it at this part of the meeting, but it's important. So we'll do that and we'll try to keep it to 10 minutes. So if we can make that happen, Bill.
Yeah, I'm looking at Martin right now. Can you make a breakout room for the board members? And Martin, my computer's up there so I can put my computer in my office. So you'll see Jill Kimball up there.
Do we need a motion?
Yes, we need a motion to go into executive session for negotiations, please.
So moved.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Susan seconded, I guess, Jack. Any discussion? All in favor?
Just to remind you, I will not be attending that due to possible conflict of interest.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you for that. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, no, sorry, I can't do it that way. I apologize. Al,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Katie, Nina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Susan, Nilda, yes. Okay, we're now in
Yes.
executive session, so make it happen. Okay, we're out of executive session. I'm now unmuted.
Do we have the voting back?
We went a little longer than planned because we had some technical difficulties, but thank you for all of that. Do we have Peter and Katie back? Or Peter's in the building. There's Katie. Okay.
But I'm
we
not
don't have Bill
sure.
yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
there we
oh,
go.
they're there.
There's Bill. Okay. So we've completed the negotiation session of our agenda. We're up to item 7, new business. First item on the agenda is FY23 budget. It's attachment 7A for your reference. This is going to be an action item tonight. I'm pretty sure Martha and Bill's as your backup. I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Yes, thank you, Nilda and Martha. I'm going to quickly send it to you, but I'm going to ask Martin to bring up the PDF of the budget handout. And Martha's going to do not as lengthy as last meeting, but make sure we go down through this pretty carefully. And Martha, you just direct where you want us to start. We'll start there with the PDF.
Sure. We'll start right where you are. So I just wanted to kind of take a minute and walk us through the progression of this budget process, just so that everybody is on board with where we're at this point. So the first draft of the budget, which we presented on December 11th, was a very rough draft. This was one that was pulled together by the request from the schools coming to me looking and putting in some placeholders, but yet the leadership team hadn't had a chance to review it before it came to the board. So that budget was presented at a $64,202,287 for a 3.78% increase at that point. At this point, we didn't have any information from AOE regarding our equalized pupil count or any revenue source income. So I gave you just basic information as to the breakdown of what that $64 million figure looked like at that point. Then on December 15th, if you want to scroll down slightly, a little bit more.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, right there. So on December 15th, we presented a second draft of the budget. This one was put together based on the request that Bill made to the leadership to bring a needs-based budget, asking the leadership team to submit what they felt they needed for running the school district for FY23. This came in at a 5.24% increase on the expense budget at this time. By this draft, we had received the recommended yield from the tax commissioner. We had some local revenue source information was updated. There were some additional adjustments made from the prior budget amount. We also, at this point, with the figures we had in front of us, we were coming in at an estimated equalized pupil spending of 6.74% increase. Then on just January 5th, we came to the board with our third draft. On this third draft, we were able to go through and tweak through some of the areas of the expense budget and reduce it to a 4.79% increase for a budget amount of $64,821,584 at that point. We had our first look at our equalized pupil count on this draft, which came in significantly lower than what we had expected. It actually came in about 67 equalized pupils less than the prior year, which is one of the key pieces that is driving our percentage of equalized pupil spending up, is because our equalized pupil count is down. At that board meeting, we also adopted the FY23 tuition rates, which was the last board meeting we attended. That brings us to tonight's draft, which is the fourth draft. Again, there's been a little bit of information received that is we're able to.
Hold on, Martha, we're trying to get to the right place. Go down a little bit more. No, the other way.
Oh.
Sorry. Right, stop where you see that FY23.
Right there, right there. Perfect. So with this draft, we still had a few adjustments made in the expenditure budget to reduce it by another $24,500, bringing us to a proposed budget of $64,797,075, which represents a 4.75% increase on our expenditure budget year over year. I also received additional local revenue information, which increased our revenues by $70,517. We also got a updated equalized pupil count, which brought us up to 2,487.37 equalized pupils, which is still down by about 50 equalized pupil count, equalized pupils from the prior year. With this adjusted budget and adjusted revenue source and adjusted equalized pupil count, it brings us to an ed spending per equalized pupil of $18,484, which is now at 8.12% increase compared to the last budget presentation, which was at 8.88% increase. So that's the progression of the budget process. I don't know if, Bill, you wanted to add anything more to that before I take us through to where it lands us in the tax rate department.
No, I think you did a great job, Martha. Hopefully that was clear. It took some time to kind of walk everyone through the steps of how we landed to where we are today.
Okay. So the next 3 pages are the details to the expenditure budget as it's being presented. And then the 3rd page is the proposed revenues as being proposed for today. So you can scroll past those pages at this point, unless somebody has any questions. So this now brings us to what would be the proposed tax rate for the budget as being presented tonight. So we're showing our increased equalized pupil count of 2487.37, our expense budget of $64,797,075, our estimated local revenues of $18,821,10, gives us an education spending of $45,976,065, which is an increase of 5.81% over the prior year. You take the equalized pupil, take your education spending divided by equalized pupil count. It gives you your education spending per equalized pupil, which is 18,434, which, as I stated, is an 8.12% increase over the prior year. We're using the lowest yield that the AOE is recommending. This is lower than what the tax commissioner put out. The lower yield that we're using If the yield comes in higher than this, when the legislature actually sets it, it will lower the tax rate even more. But so we're using the lowest recommended yield, basically the worst case scenario at this point. So it gives us a tax rate of an education tax rate of $1.4288, which is 8 cents less than the current year, or the prior year, I should say. Once you take into account the common level of appraisal for each different municipality, Sonoma City's CLA is 84.34%, which makes that tax rate adjusted to $1.69.4, which is currently showing at about 2 1/3 cent increase over the current year or prior year. The Sedamin's Town CLA is coming in at 90.41%, which adjusts the tax rate to $1.5803, which is slightly over 1 cent over the current year. And Fairfield's CLA is coming in at 84.62%, which adjusts the tax rate to $1.6884, which represents slightly less than 1.5 cent decrease from the current year. So that's where we stand with the budget as being proposed.
Right, Martha, you're all set with documents right now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so Martha, maybe you can bring it back there. Thank you. Nilda, that's what we have for our presentation right now. We'd like to take any questions or?
Anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do. It's Susan.
Who's I do?
Susan.
Okay,
It's Susan.
thank you.
I don't want to put my video on because I might lose you guys again. So correct me if I'm wrong. Martha, did you say that our tax rate in Fairfield is going to go down by
Slightly
like
less.
1.5 cents?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So if we wanted to make the tax rate flat, what could we do?
For St. Albans City, for example.
Do you want to take that, Bill, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll take it. So if we wanted to make it so there weren't any tax increases anywhere and it was flat for the city, we estimate about a $700,000 cut to the local budget.
Okay, and if we were to do that, that would lower the,
What it would do is it would lower the tax rate to, if we did 700,000, the city would be flat, the town would be down by about $0.0125, and Fairfield would have about a 4-cent decrease.
Okay. So
Would it be possible to put that last page up one more time as we're having this conversation, please?
Yeah, Martin can do that.
Thank
And
you.
what would the per pupil spend be if you did that?
Per pupil, Martha, didn't we estimate it was like 6.46?
6.47%.
6.47 would be the per pupil, and the expenditure increase would be 3.61. I'm just going to anticipate that.
Thanks.
instead of 8.12.
So let me, you just crossed two different figures there, Nilda. The expenditure increase right now is at 4.75, and it would go to 3.61. That's just the expenditure budget. And the per pupil equalized would go from 8.12 to 6.47.
Okay.
No, what I wanted to do Can you move it so we can still see people, but put it over on the left-hand side? Mark? That way people, I think it helps when people can see each other.
So I didn't catch that 8.12 to what?
6.47.
Okay, thank you.
So, so looking at this from a perspective of trying to sell a budget, would it be reasonable to reduce this by the $700,000, which is basically making the city flat, the town down about 1 cent and Fairfield down about 4 cents as a selling point for the budget to sort of try to offset some of the issues that might have come up that might cause voters to want to say no to a budget. That's a question mark, I guess, at the end of that sentence.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So how much, so city and, so town and Fairfield are going down. What's the increase for the city?
For which proposal? The current fourth draft?
For the current fourth draft?
The increase would be 2 1/3 cent increase.
Okay. If we put this budget through and it goes down, can we put, like, I guess I would want to know where the $700,000 is coming from. If we cut it to make it flat.
So right now I haven't had
And I know you can't.
Yeah, I haven't had the conversation with the leadership team on that because this question, Nilda and I had a conversation. I said I would estimate these numbers. So Martha and I did that this afternoon. It's not fair to tell you where they would come from without a conversation with the leadership team. I just want to be clear that I'd like to include my colleagues in the work because they know their buildings better than I do.
I mean,
I
my
have one
goal
other
is
question.
to, go ahead. Who had the question?
So my question
Susan?
is, it's about the whole budget process and yeah, it's Susan, sorry.
Okay.
If this budget fails, if this current draft fails, represent up until a certain date before last year's budget becomes next year's budget. Yes?
So let me give you some just mechanics of budget revotes. So we have to wait 30 days to revote a new proposal. During that time, usually a new draft, we work with the board to set targets and to redraft a budget to present to the voters. Once that 30 days goes, then you have to have the warning time that you have, and then you get to revote the budget. So we get all that done. There's usually, in most school districts where they've gone through multiple times to vote the budget, you usually get 2 attempts at it before June 30th. You might be able to squeeze in 3 depending on how you roll your days. You really have to count them pretty closely because statute comes into existence in how you do all of this. If there is not a budget on July 1st, you run at, I believe it's 90%, but I could be wrong, Martha. I'm kind of looking at you if you remember, but we have to look it up to confirm the percentage of the previous year's budget until a voted budget is passed.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Al?
And you're on mute, Al.
You have to unmute, Al.
No, I haven't tried.
Al, can't hear you. You need to unmute. There you go. Okay, we didn't hear anything you said, so start over, please.
Okay. When was the last time that we had a failed budget?
I was hoping you
can't-
didn't ask because I don't remember.
It was a while, but it was the town, St. Albans
Oh,
town.
if
had
you don't
that.
remember, no one's gonna.
The reason I brought that up is because we've been very good at telling the community and now the district what we needed the money for and what was being done and how we were trying to hold the cost without deleting the educational points of our students. So I, again, will say, for me, I'm positive that our community will support a good budget. And as long as we are going to promote it, I'm very confident. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Al. Anyone else?
Al, I respect your historical perspective, and this community has done a great job of supporting education. However, times are a little different right now, and the problem with when a budget goes down is a no vote becomes a habit. So the first time they vote no, it's easy. The second time, it's easy. So I think we need to come in with our best shot the first time. I don't think we should say. I think we ought to go in with the $700,000 cut going flat. You know that's going to pass. That I would bet my house on. Anything else, I wouldn't bet. And I don't think I would support. I think we need to come in where the people, my issue is we haven't really listened to the people this year, and we haven't been able to because of the COVID and whatnot. I think we really need to be aware of what they're saying. And I know we're all live in the community, but we listen to different people. What I'm hearing is we better come in close to flat.
Thanks, Peter. Grant?
Yeah, Martha, can you, maybe it's jumping ahead, but can you go over what the wording is in the on the ballot again? Because I think that no matter how we propose it on the ballot, it's not going to look like it comes in flat.
Correct. So it says, shall the legal voters of the Maple Run Unified School District authorize the Board of Directors to expend, we put the budget amount, $64,797,075, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $18,484 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 8.12% higher than spending for the current year.
Right. And so even if we did the 700,000 cut, those numbers change, but it still shows up as an increase of 6 and change.
Yeah, 6.47%.
Right. So you have to then balance the the benefit of showing up at 6 point something percent versus 8.1% versus a $700,000 cut. And I said it last week, I don't think the value's there. I think that the people that are going to vote down an 8% budget will also vote down a 6.5% budget increase without some outreach. And once you're into that outreach, that's the time when you can make the point and speak with the community like Al's been suggesting, and go that route and sort of be all in on it.
I think the most important numbers are how it's going to affect my household. And that's what the people look at. And Martha did a good job of putting that in here. And I see that if you have a $100,000 home, you're going to pay $25 more. If you're $200,000 home, you're going to pay $46, $47 more. That's the most important thing. If you show that to the people, and if you're showing you're going to be having no increase, I think that's a big seller for the budget.
Thanks, Peter. Joanna?
I would agree with Grant and I agree with Al. I think that we can make this happen. I'm wondering, I have a question and then a comment. My question is, Martha, when you're making this statement that you just stated, are you able to, when you put in the 18,000 number, are you able to put in quotations or parentheses next to it what it was the year before and showing people that it's really not, that these percentages sound more alarming than they really are, just so they can see what the increase really looks like is my question. And then my comment is that I believe that this is where we really look at that $13.1 million in ESSER funds, and we show our community what creative ways we can use that money. And I think that if people are looking at, you know, spending, whether it be $23 more in taxes or $70 more in taxes, it would be a far cry. That would be much less significant increase if we were utilizing those funds in a really beneficial way to be able to either do you know, infrastructure work that needs to be done on the buildings, things that would just really really give us a bang for our buck, I guess is what I'm saying. It would just be a really smart way of using the money. And I think it would speak to people and people would feel respected.
So in response to your question, I can answer, or Bill can answer also. You cannot add to that language in that article that's prescribed specifically by the legislature.
Thanks, Martha.
But the opportunity is during promotion and PR and everything to explain those numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
And Martha, could we use any of the ESSER funds money to help with promotion, like promotional literature or?
No, you can't use federal funds for that.
All right, I didn't know.
Grant, did you have a question or comment?
Well, I was just going to point out that, you know, the difference between 0 and say a 2-cent increase per 100, you know, or something of that order of magnitude. The only way that you can even show that to people is through the outreach. And I think once you're into that outreach mode, you know, I don't think anyone's expecting 0, right? Like, and so, you know, the idea of having a 2-cent increase, you know, is something that is very, you know, sort of approachable, and you can go in there and it passes the red face test, you know, as a proposition to a voter.
Thank you. Jack?
I've always learned that making the cuts on the first draft is dangerous, because in the event that a budget doesn't pass, then you have some room to make cuts. If you make the cuts beforehand, that's dangerous. So I respect what Peter has said, but I tend to be more with the Al, Grant, Joanna perspective. I think we need to do a good job selling the budget and explaining it to people through the media, our website, newspaper, articles, and so forth. We don't have the town meeting as such. We have the information meeting that 8 people come to at best. And so it's a difficult situation to sell the budget, but we need to just do everything we can to put the word out.
Katie?
I'm just going to say my piece. I have kept quiet the last couple meetings, but I have spoken to a lot of the people in the community, and I absolutely know that the number we've put out scares a lot of people. And we can say that we're going to go out there and we're going to put it out and we're going to do all this, but my fear is there's going to be enough people that don't hear that message that are going to come and see that % raise and say, absolutely not. And again, they didn't listen to us before. Why are we going to support this budget? That's my fear. That's just my point. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Katie. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Susan?
If we went in flat, what would be the percentage increase that would show up on the budget or on the warning?
6.47.
So even if we come in flat, it's going to look like a 6.47 increase. I think we need to do, there's no way around it. I think we need to do absolutely top-notch work in terms of getting the message out, because otherwise I don't know, there's gonna be a difference between 6.47 and 8.25 or whatever it is.
So, but what if the message that we get out is, guess what? We decided to lower the tax burden on the community from what we calculated it to be to end up being, 6.47% from what was an 8.12% after a fourth draft. I think that sends a nice message. Now, I agree with what Al said about, the community is hard pressed often to put down a budget. I do remember when it happened. I don't think it happened on the board I was on, but I think the St. Albans Town Board had some experience with that. And Jack, I think the Swanton school system has some budgets go down too. So, it's happened in our community, but it's usually a reaction to something, right? It's the one way. I think Peter said this last meeting or something. It's a one way voters have to express their concern with something. They can either vote you down or vote you out of office or vote down your most important thing. And as far as setting the budget, it's one of the most important jobs we have as a board. I am sort of torn because I understand everybody's perspective, but I would really like to be the board that can go out and sell this budget by saying, guess what? We decided to take a step that hasn't been taken in a while, and we decided to go below flat in, at least two communities or one community for sure. And look what we did for Fairfield and look what we did for town. I think that could be a good sell. Now, I appreciate that 8.12 and 6.47 is no big flip. I totally get that. But it's another perspective, and I've been thinking about it a lot. So that's kind of where I'm at. Grant.
Yeah, I mean, haven't we already sort of made a round of cuts? At one point it was, 800 something thousand as an increase in one area, and that came down. You could already make that argument that we got down to 8.12 probably from a 10 number somewhere if you were to count everything up that way. So you already have that argument even with the number we're at.
Well, you have the argument about how solid is it. I mean, some of those numbers were not firm when we got those drafts. So
but it's just as firm as, if there's
firm
700
now.
in there, that doesn't need to be. It's just as firm as that 700 is.
Right. I mean,
you can cut all day long, right?
I'm not gonna spend hours trying to convince you guys because I'm not that committed to it, because I can see both sides of it. And I do get that if the budget were to go down, we have room to go. If we don't do anything, right? We do have some room to go. But anybody that's listening to this meeting and hears that goes, well, wait a minute. If they have room to go, why aren't they going there? Ina.
Yeah, I was around when town, I think it took 3 times to pass it, if I remember 2013, something like that. And we can sell it till the cows come home. We can do all we can, and just from past experience, we can throw all the money, we can throw everything out to media, social media. People look at that number. I mean, I could go either way, but I think again, history, just the SATEC or the town was, we had one number, we came back, it was almost exactly the same. And it was almost like a slap on the face to the voters, to be honest with you. I thought so. But we did the best we could. And then we really had to move that number so people could see that we were doing what we were, voted to do, or try to do our best. And I think we did all 3 times that we tried to, but ultimately it's that number people see on the ballot. And again, we can do all we want, but if people aren't interested in learning the facts behind it, we've done our job, but it's all perception too. We are all educated better, we're still trying to, but I think it's that number. So from 8 to 6, yeah, I'm more apt for that 6, but again, what's the impact of that $700,000 cut too? I don't know. I think it's that bottom line number. I'm sorry to, just from experience, and Yeah, anyway, just a comment. Thanks.
Thanks, Nina. Susan? Susan?
So I just wanted to kind of reiterate what Johanna said, I think probably at the last meeting, the meeting before, which was along the lines of we've talked about what can we do for our students and our teachers, and it's to support them. So I just wanted to put that out there versus cutting more programs. And then the second thing is Fairfield's budget was voted down probably, I don't know, a year or two before we unified, and we had to go back and, we were able to pass it the second time around, even though it was a very minimal amount, the change, it certainly gave us time to get the message out. So I'm just kind of putting that out there.
Thank you. Joanna?
Is it possible to kind of shift our conversation and thinking about what we could be using the 13, maybe Martha, have you and Bill discussed ideas for the 13.1?
So that's really not for this agenda for tonight. We've really got to nail down this budget. I mean, that's something certainly to talk about in the future.
I guess, yeah, I'm just thinking, I wonder if the 8.1, if the number could be more palatable, if people understood what it was that they would be receiving from the use of those other monies. Because, sometimes it's, sometimes we look at that short-term, that instant gratification push, right? So we got our taxes flat. We don't have to pay any money. But this is an opportunity with $13 million. It's an opportunity to be looking at the long-term plan. And to understand what it would be that we would be able to utilize these funds for, and what a huge payback and investment it would be for our community.
Yeah, thank you.
Could be.
Anybody else?
Just one last thing, though, and you paraphrase it a bit. I would remind everyone to look at your constituents. Right now, they go to the gas pump and they pay more money. They're paying more for their fuel to heat their house. Groceries are skyrocketing. The cost of everything's going high, and they don't get a say on that. They have no say whether they pay more for gas or not. When they go in and they can check something, is this going to cost me more? I'm telling you that they may finally voice their displeasure with the way the economy is happening. And that's my fear. And that's what I'm obviously for good education, but the fact that we're saying that it's even a possibility, I think we need to look at that realistically. I think we need to look at our constituents. For a lot of us, maybe 50, 60 bucks isn't a lot of money. For the person who's just barely making ends meet, it's a lot of money. And those are the people that are going in to vote. Those are the people that I think we need to represent.
Thanks, Peter. Any parting comments?
Well, I mean, everybody's got the right intentions. I'm trying to figure out if I want to make another statement as my final push for this. I do feel like other people have stated that it's all going to be in what we do to sell this budget and educate the community that's going to help it pass, right? These numbers do not do it. And that's unfortunately the thing that people see on their ballot is these numbers, and they see that % increase. There are people in this community that say no to every single increase always if they vote. Now we have a low turnout of voters. I think over the last couple of years, we're getting a little more, and we might get even more this time around because the opportunity to vote at, mail in your ballot kind of thing. Will never change those people. It's the people that are sort of in the middle that maybe might consider voting it in, maybe might not consider doing it, that we really have to educate. I still believe in my heart that if we do what we can to lower the first pass that we present to the voters to what we're suggesting with the $700,000, I think that's our best move. I think I mean, I can do a straw vote here and I know I'm in the minority. So from what I can figure, the budget's going to pass as we have it presented tonight. But I just wanted to put my last 2 cents in there about that. Any other final comments?
I love my community. I think.
Say what, Al?
I said, I love my community. And I think that they have supported us in the past. They will once again support us in the future, regardless of any painting of this. The fact of the matter is we have a good school system. We try to give our students the best that we can for what we can afford. And so I will just like to say, I think whatever we come up with, we should promote and answer the questions that the community might have.
Thanks, Al. Anyone else? Okay, so.
Sorry, Nilda, one just question. I guess what would be the impact? I mean, I know we have to get this done by Friday, but and I think Bill said if we were going to try to do that 8.12 to 6.47, that he'd have to go back to the administration. I think that's what you said, Bill. Is that correct?
I said I wanted to work with the leadership team and determining what that is. And when we do that, that's not a day's turnaround. I just want to be really clear. I cannot give you answers by Friday.
No, I know. We have to get this done by Friday. I guess I just I know I want to support, the administration. I know this has been a tough time, but we've all said, everybody's stressed out too, and seeing this number is just going to put people over the edge. I just have a feeling, and I hate saying that, but I want to support. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling, just from past experience, I guess. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So I guess, Martha, help me with this motion. I guess I need a motion to approve the FY23 budget as presented on January 19th, labeled draft number 4.
In the amount of, and you would want to state the amount.
Okay, give me those amounts.
$64,797,075. 64797,075. That would be your motion.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the FY23 budget as presented tonight for $64,797,075.
So moved.
Thanks, Al. Is there a second?
Second.
Jack, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to take a vote. Al,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Katie,
No.
Nina,
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. Is it too late?
well, you really can't at this point,
Okay.
if we're doing it properly.
No.
Peter,
No.
Susan,
Yes.
and Nilda says no, so it's 5-4. Oh, wait, is it 4-4?
4-4.
I have you at 5-4, Hilda.
5-4?
2 half votes.
5-4, yeah. Okay, so the budget passes at that figure I just said, $64,797,075. Thank you all for that discussion. It was an important conversation to have. And as we move forward, we will all work to support the budget and help educate the community as such. New business, item B is FY22 warning. That's attachment 7B. We bring that copy up, please, for discussion.
Do you want it on the screen?
Yeah, please.
Yes, oh, sorry, I forgot to, Martin, to have you have the warning ready on the screen. Thank you, Martha.
Thanks. Now you fixed that typo, right, Martha?
Yes, it's been fixed.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody have any, anything they picked up on this?
Looks good.
The one thing we do need to add on page 2 is we need to include the date that was decided as the informational meeting, which was decided as, what was it? February.
Martha, when you asked me this afternoon, I forgot to get back to you, but Aaron and I tried to look through it. It wasn't in the minutes, and we tried to look through our notes. I didn't see a date. The last thing I saw was that was going to be resolved at this meeting.
Okay, so we have to set that date.
We have to set that date before you can adopt this warning.
We said we had more, we actually said we had another meeting that we could use to set it.
Yeah.
We talked about doing something, well, we talked about doing things like things that are going to be recorded, whether they're the quote unquote official informational meeting or not. We can still do some stuff earlier, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you just need to have a meeting within 10 days of town meeting day. That's
Yeah, we
it.
talked about the 23rd of, yeah, we talked about the 23rd, the last meeting.
February 23rd. I don't think we firmed it up though, right?
That's over vacation. That's a tough time to have it if you want people to show.
It always
So we
ends up.
said to do it,
It
we
always
talked about
is.
doing it before the
It always
vacation.
is? Oh,
Yeah,
pardon me.
that's what happens. It's like really weird.
Because it has to fall within that 10-day window.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, for 25 years, that's the way it's been for me.
So what day? The vote is March 1st.
Yes.
March 1st.
So we have to do it after the 20th, between the 20th and the 1st.
Yep.
Does anybody have a preference? I mean, if we do it March 23rd, it's a Wednesday, which is us. I mean, that's when we have our meetings typically. So
And
that
it will
would be,
be via Zoom, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's what we
pardon?
right now.
It would be via Zoom, yeah. So do we want to go with February 20, Wednesday, February 23rd at 6?
So moved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's not really part of this motion. Right?
We haven't made the motion yet on the warning.
That's correct. That's correct. So if everyone is in agreement, we could add that information, that the informational meeting would be Wednesday, February 23rd at 6 p.m. And then when we take the vote, we vote on the complete warning with that added to it. Any other questions about the warning? Okay, I need a motion to approve the warning for the FY22 budget vote as presented,
So
to
moved.
include the informational meeting on Wednesday, February 23rd at 6 p.m. Can we have that motion, please?
So moved.
Thanks, Al. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jack. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's take the vote. Al,
Yes.
Leisha,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yeah.
Susan. Nilda,
Yes.
yes. Thank you. All right,
Nilda, before you move on, can I just make a note for everyone on this topic? We will need to have all of you stop by the office and sign the signature page. And I believe, I'm looking at Aaron, we need that done by this Friday?
I believe so.
So we need you to stop by the end of work on Friday, which is 4 p.m., to sign the signature page.
Okey-doke.
And
You want to send us all a reminder.
yeah, and Al, we'll get it up to you.
Thank you.
Can
Okay.
you make sure to put the office hours, so you guys be there, that would be fine.
8 to 4.
Okay, thanks.
We'll make sure we have it out.
Okay. And next item on the agenda is the budget information plan. You have that as attachment 7C. Bill, you want to talk to that?
Yes, I put together pieces that have been done in previous years and really some other things to consider that I've had from my experience in looking at other districts and what they do and talking with other superintendents. One of the things is to work more closely with the St. Albans Messenger and taking those articles and posting them up on social media. More and more folks are getting their news through social media than they are through traditional print media and other ways, but there are still many people subscribing to the St. Albans Messenger, so it's really a use of both. In previous years, our annual budget and our budget information hasn't been on the top page of our website. So we want to make more direct links, and that's something we can just do. I really don't need much from the board on that, but making it easier to access information about the budget and what is the budget paying for. And you'll see that later on in some graphical explanations that we're thinking about some pie charts that you've usually seen in the informational meeting, but putting those up on the website as well. One of the things that I have found in my history, doesn't get a lot of views, but really helps people, is that the informational meeting PowerPoint is done well before the informational meeting. It's usually done by second week at the latest in February. And that a board member records that on a YouTube presentation that can be used for people to see. And that people can look at that and have some explanation, but it also can set up your second meeting in February to be a more of an informational sharing for members of the public to come to the meeting, especially if we're doing it over Zoom, and ask for clarifying questions, not, what does this mean? How does that piece, because you've talked as a board about educating the electorate about what the budget numbers mean and where the percentages come from. That can be done as well within that YouTube presentation. The other thing that I've found is getting as much of this graphical and less table forms of a budget. You have been great as a board throughout my history of being with you that you take a budget, print it out, and usually can digest it. That's not as easy as if we can put it into graphical forms for folks. So using some graphs, I know last year we had a graph of what's happened to the tax rate over the history of Maple Run. We can add to that graph to show that. And so taking some simple things like that can be used. And really just trying to have a constant stream going out through social media and print media of information about the budget. So it's not just coming right before the vote. That doesn't mean everyone's going to pay attention, but at least you're trying to put that out and explaining your message. I'd really suggest that at the February meeting, our first meeting in February, we really talk about crafting that message and what you want to put out there as a board. We heard some tonight, so I can start to draft some things from what I heard. But that you as a board, because you're the community representatives, you're the ones out there speaking on that budget. That's my suggestions, Nilda. I'm also open to many other ideas if people have them. I'm just giving from my experience of working in other districts.
Thanks. If anyone has any additional ideas, don't hesitate to email Bill with the ideas and we can add them to the list and see as much, we can do whatever we can try to do. Okay, next item on the agenda is 7D. We need to set what is called the high school choice numbers. This is an action item. So in the past, for school year 21-22, the numbers were at 40 for students going out of the district and 32 for students coming into BFA. Is there any reason to change those numbers, or how has that worked in the past? Who can speak to that?
I can speak to it a little bit. Since Brett's here tonight, I might ask him as well. But I know that we've pretty much 40, we haven't had anywhere near 40 students going out. And Brett, I believe my memory's right. I meant to get to you today, but we were busy with other things. We haven't, 32 pretty much took care of all the kids that applied to come in to BFA. Is that correct?
It was, yeah, we originally turned down 3. And then because of a few issues here and there, we were able to take them. Right now, we look to have in the high or mid, I think it's the high 30s that we're asking to come in.
Yeah,
So
we're still in this choice piece, but yeah, yep.
Yeah, so we will fill the 32 instantly, and then we'll probably have to do a lottery is what it looks like right now. Personally, I like having more kids in the building. I could take a couple more, but I understand the money doesn't come with them, but if it was up to me, I would probably put it at 35.
Thank you, Brett.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we need a motion to set the high school choice numbers for school year 22-23. And I guess we have 40 students going out. We got a suggestion from the principal to move the 32 up to 35. So let us say that I need a motion to set the high school choice numbers for school year 22-23 at 40 students going out and 35 students coming in. Can I have a motion to that effect? Thanks, Al. Is there a second?
Second.
Jack, thank you. Okay, so we've got a motion for 40 going out, 35 coming in. Any further discussion? All right, let's take the vote.
35 or
Al?
32?
Say that again?
35 or 32?
I bumped it up to 35 based on Brett's suggestion.
Okay, all right.
So Al,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Nilda, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Brett. Okay, next item on the agenda is other business. We have the warrants. Seeking a motion to approve the warrants, acknowledging that passage of this motion will act as authorization and signature of any individual board member participating remotely. Can I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Thanks, Al. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Joanna. There's a motion and a second to approve the warrants. Any discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Al,
Yes.
Alicia, Grant,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
Katie, Nina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Nilda, yes. Thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is Superintendent's Report. Bill?
I don't have much more to add. I covered most of it, COVID, and that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Board announcements, any board announcements? Joanna, you running?
Think so.
Good. Nina,
To be determined.
well, you're running out of time there, girl. If you need people to help
know.
you with petitions, you gotta let us know.
We don't need petitions this year.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay, good.
I
That
talked
was
with
still
Anna.
up in the, that was
You
still
know,
up in the
but
air last time we met.
I don't know that that's been signed by the governor yet, Nina.
Well, maybe not, but
Yeah, other people have gotten signatures, so I'm not sure. I think you need them.
It's gone through, it has not been signed by the governor, so at this point, it's still on petitions.
yeah, well, I'm with
If you have a
COVID,
blank
that's
fo-
gonna
if you
sway
have a
me then.
blank form, you have to, they're due by the end of the month, right?
By Monday, 5 o'clock.
This coming Monday?
Yep.
Hey, if you have a blank form and you want to scan it to me, we can get some, I can help you get some signatures.
Okay, yeah, I do have it. I'm still thinking.
Okay, and we know what Alicia's doing.
Why is it just her with the blurry background?
All right, so item 9, agenda for future meetings. We have goal setting for February. We have a governance update for February. Anything else for February? Okay, no need for executive session at this point. Any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. The time is 7:41, is it?